the chain guard on the motorcycle was held on with just one bolt. Should be three, and the bolt that was there looks like the threads were all stripped. I think this was the wrong size bolt to hold the chain guard in place. The proper bolt is a 6mm by 8mm long bolt. I bought some new ones, but now the holes are not quite threaded. I think the threads are damaged in this hole, in this one, maybe even this one. So, going to try and retap the holes and see if that works. But in order to get the tap close in here, I'm going to have to remove the passenger peg, and these saddlebags are getting in the way. So I'm going to remove the back seat and take off the saddlebags as well. There's a 12mm socket. Now let's try to retap these holes. It seems to be going in well. A little bit of oil. Okay, we're through. All right, good. Now let's see the new bolts. These bolts are 12mm long. They need to be 8, so I will have to grind them down. Otherwise, they might interfere with the chain. Seems to be a snug fit. There we go. All right. It fits well. Nice. We're going to retap the other holes. Now we're going to remove the rear seat so we can get rid of the saddlebags to have better access to that last hole. Retap this hole. Some of these items might be in the way. We'll do the best we can. Trying to stay perpendicular to the metal. Make sure I cut the threads in the right way. This is the one that I think is really the most affected by the bad bolt that was in holding this in place. Not catching. Let's try something different. There we go. All the way through, and now let's try fitting in one of those bolts. All right, we're good. And we are in. Those are just a little bit loose, but it's going to be totally fine once we torque it down just a little bit. We tapped the holes. We shortened one of the bolts so that way it won't interfere with the chain. And now we can reassemble everything. And we'll start by putting this guard back on. Just going to wipe it clean a little bit, full of grease and dirt. Before we add this chrome guard back on, these end caps, one of them was missing, and I got two new replacement ones. Not quite the same style. This helps hold the chain guide inside here. All right. And to get the last one from the other side, we need to use a much longer extension. The plastic cover for the airbox has these screws, and there should be 4 of them, but I only have 3. This keeps the plastic cover on where the air filter goes in here. So, bought some new screws, 6mm with a 1mm thread pitch, but I can only find 30mm in length, and these screws, here are the ones that I bought, they're just a little bit too long. And so these are looks like they are 28mm in length. So I got to cut a couple millimeters off because I tried putting one in over here and it bottoms out. So we're just going to cut these a little bit shorter and swap them in. to make sure that the end thread is good. And actually, I need to file off a little bit on the end here. The roughness off. I have a 6mm by 1mm thread die, and so I'm going to see if I can just go over the threads a little bit. Got to stay straight. Here we go. That's it now. Just make sure that this is. Yeah, that's the right thread there. Just double checking. Yeah, that fits. Alright, just need to be a little bit more persuasive, I suppose. Might be easier. Okay. Good. We're on. So that bolt is clean. Just going to repeat the process on the other three. Okay, now we can put this air cleaner back in. Again, we had the original screw. It actually has a washer. This one doesn't, but it has a larger head, which I think is fine. It's only holding a plastic cover in place, so they're not going to be that tight. These are going to be fine. I'm going to put this in. This should have a foam cover over it. I'm not going to put it in just yet. Because it needs to be soaked in an oil, and I don't have any of that. So what I'm going to do is put this in. You have to connect this breather hose, which comes from the crankcase. After I place this in, need the spring, the retaining spring. Here's the original part number. And put this open. Let's see how this goes. Flat part goes up. I think the flat part goes up. Yeah, because there's an indent in the back. Let me see if I can get this connected first. Okay, that hose is in, and I can rotate this up. That seems to work. And there was a little hose clamp. Alright, hose clamp is in. Put this up in place. And now the spring with a little handle, and I believe it goes this way. That's it. Just applies a little bit of pressure. Now we can place the cover back on. Now, we can put our air cleaner cover on. There's a single tab here with a screw mounting hole. Picked up another stainless steel screw, 6 millimeters by 12. 12 might be too long for what it's actually there for. It looks like there's a capped nut on the end. We're going to try putting this in. And I think I'm going to get a little socket extension so I can kind of reach in there. $10mm socket. All right, good. That's in place. Another thing we're going to replace are the bolts. Well, really, there's one missing bolt that holds the seat down, and the bolt is kind of underneath here. There are 2 spots that hold the main seat down, and only one is in place, which is why this seat is a bit wobbly. To get to those bolts, we have to remove the back seat first. Here we can see that we only have 1 bolt and we're missing 1. I decided to get 2 new bolts, 8mm by 1.25 thread, 16mm long. I'm going to remove this one first. There's a different head size than the new bolts. Looks like the old one's a 12mm. There's the old one. There's the old one. The new ones. Just a fraction longer, but I think it's going to be fine. All set. Well, that's it for the little odds and ends and fixes on the bike. I replaced all the missing bolts and that missing air clip for the air box, and so I think we're good to go. If I can fix it, so can you.